It's Tuesday. All right, today we are just doing 3 problems. I left all of these definitions up here so you can just read them on your own, but I'm just going to go over them very, very briefly. I'm sure you've seen all this before, but I want to make sure we know what they mean. A dot plot literally has dots for every data point, so you can have an idea of how this thing looks. A stem and leaf, I'm going to go over that in more detail, but a stem and leaf is going to have a stem, which is usually like your tens place value or maybe your hundreds place value, and then the value after that. So this one, the key says 6 line 3 equals 63 years old. So then 1 0 would be 10 and 2 5 would be 25. So it's an easy way to get a lot of data points, and I can actually see kind of how these guys are clustered. There's a lot of ones in the ones place value and not a lot of people that are 60-ish years old. So it helps you have a view of that data. Okay, next is box and whisker plot. I'm going to go over that in much more detail here in just a minute, so I'm going to skip that for now. And then histograms, you've seen those before. Key features, they have to be covering all the data. They've got to have equal group sizes. They got to be touching. And you just look at how many are in each group. So this one has 5 people in that group and 30 in that group, and you're able just to add up how many people there are total. If I ask you what percent of trees were between 100 and 150, you would say 5 divided by, and you would add up all of these, and then that would be your percent. So don't forget how easy those questions can be. You're basically just adding on those guys. All right, so just reviewing dot plot and stem and leaf. Dot plot, you're literally going to go put a dot for every single point you have. So 68, 70, 70, 71, 75, 80, 81, 82, 84, 75, 75, 75, 80, and 77. That's a dot plot. I could ask you how many basketball players are 75 inches tall. You'd say they're 4. Cool. All right, stem and leaf plot. You're just going to take this value, and there's 60s, 70s, and 80s. So I'm going to make a 6, a 7, and an 8 spot. And then how many 60s do I have? Well, I have a 68, so the 8's going to go there. 70s, I have a 70, 70, a 71. So a 70, a 70, a 71. I have 4 75s, and I have a 77. Okay, and in the 80s group, I have an 80, and an 80, and an 81, and an 82, and an 84. And that's how you do stem and leaf plot. You do need to have a key, which just tells you what it means. So 7 line 0 means 70, and then tag on the unit 70 inches tall. Okay, so that's your only review for dot and stem and leaf, but those are pretty easy, and you'll have questions on Canvas about those. Okay, but the main focus for today is I want to go over a box and whisker plot. I will show you how to graph that on the calculator in just a minute, but I'm just going to answer some questions first, and then we'll actually go and graph 2 of our own, and then answer as many questions we have time for. All right, so box and whisker plots. I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but box and whisker plots are going to cut your data into 4 pieces. Remember yesterday I talked about Q3 and Q1 making your interquartile range. So a box and whisker plot has your 5-number summary. It has your highest value as a dot, your lowest value as a dot, your median, your Q1, and your Q3. And the key feature of a box and whisker plot is that there's 25% of the data in each of these little sections, totaling 100% of the data. A box and whisker plot it doesn't give you too much information. Obviously, it gives you these 5 numbers. It does give you an idea, kind of the spread a little bit, but not perfect. Like I know 25% of the people, whatever this is, English GED test scores, scored here, and then 25% scored here. But I don't know if 24% of those people actually made a 38, and only 1% scored up here. So I do know that 25% of the data is in this group. I just don't know how that data is spread out. All right, so let's go ahead and answer some questions. What is the highest score on the test? Highest score is 102. What is the lowest score on the test? Lowest score on the test is 38. What percent of the class scored above 72%? Well, here's 72%. Above is this, and this section. So there are 3 sections of 25%. Therefore, 75% scored above a 72 and 25% scored below a 72. What was the mean score of the test? No, I'm sorry, what was the median score of the test? Median score is, boom, that middle guy right there, 88. So that means 50% of the kids scored above and 50% scored below. What is the interquartile range? Interquartile range comes from Q3 minus Q1. So Q3 is 96, Q1 is 72. So interquartile range is 24. So the 50% in the middle had that 24-point difference there. What is the mean of the data set? This is actually a trick question. To find the mean of any data set, you need to have every individual point. You need to add up every single value and divide by the total value. Firstly, I don't even know how many values there are here. But secondly, even if I did, I don't know what they are. Again, I said that if there was 120 people here, there could have been 20 some odd people scoring down here and 10 scoring up here. I don't know the actual values, so you have to know the actual values to find the mean. So you cannot tell. Okay? What percent of the class score between 88 and 96? Well, that's just one little section, so that's 25%. And if 120 students took the English GED test, how many scored above a 96? Well, above a 96 is 25%. But there's 120 students, so I need to do 120 students times 25% or 0.25 times 120. So 1/4 of 120 is 30 students. If I asked you how many students scored above an 88 and there's 120 students, you'd say 50% of 120, so 60 students scored. So currently, with 120 students, 30 students scored in each little subsection there. All right, for our last question, we are given 2 snowboarding stores, and we're going to answer some questions about those. But first, we're going to draw a double box and whisker plot. That just means a box and whisker plot on top and then one on bottom using that same scale there. So I'm going to show you how to do this in the calculator. You could easily do it by hand by putting these numbers in order, finding your highest value, lowest value, find your middle value, and then find your Q1 and Q3. And these are really small data sets, so you could easily do that, but I'm going to show you how to do this in the calculator. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to your calculator. I have my RAM cleared. I'm going to go over to stat like we did yesterday. We're still going to just press edit. Okay, I'm going to type in my data points. So my first one is 345. Second one is 350. Then 356, 360, 375, and 405. I'm going to double check that those are correct. 345, 350, 356, 360, 370. Okay, yep, that's a good deal. All right, I'm just going to do one at a time. So we've put our data sets in. Okay, we could run our, so I'm going to show you how real quick, but I'm going to show you how to do it on the calculator. We could run our 1var stat stuff. So press stat again. Go over to calc. We're still just doing one variable. These are the price of snowboards, so just 1var stats. Press enter, press enter, press enter, press enter, and scroll down. There's all of your values: min, max, Q1, Q3, and median. So let's actually go ahead and just do our first one like that, and then we'll do our second one the fancy way. All right, so we have our values. 345 is our min, so I'm going to go ahead and maximize this guy. So 345 is our minimum value. So I'm going to go up here and put a dot at 345. Then my Q1 is 350 and my median is 358. So at 350, I'm going to put a line, and at 350, I'm going to put a line. Okay, I'm going to go back. My Q3 is 375 and my max is 405. So 375 and 405. So my Q3 is 375 and my max is 405. So make sure for min and max you put dots, for Q1, median, and Q3 you put lines, and you just connect them. I'm going to go ahead and pause and actually label these values because I'm obviously a little bit far away from my line, so I'll forget what these values are. So give me 1 second. All right, so I just went back and labeled these values just so that when we answer questions, it won't be a guessing game. Also, again, you could have easily done this by hand. Min is 345, max is 405. There's an even number of points, so the median is exactly in the middle. So your middle is 358, and then Q1 and Q3. So you could have easily done this by hand, but these are already set in order. So if it wasn't, you'd have to write it in order yourself. If there's more data points, you actually got to do some work. So doing it in the calculator actually really is quite easy. All right, so that first one, we just did the simple route. We just did our 1var stats. To do the second one, I'm going to show you how to actually graph it in the calculator. So let's go ahead and go back to our calculator. I'm just going to clear it by pressing second plus 712. Okay, I want to put my second data set, so I'm going to go ahead and go to Stat. I'm going to go to Edit, so I'm going to press Enter, and I'm just going to type in my second data set. So I do recommend clearing it out and not just typing it in L2 because you don't know how to make L2 an answer, unless you do. Okay, so 343, 370, 386, 392, 395, and 402. All right, so there are those data points. And this method obviously has a little bit more to it, but we are going to use all these features later, so you might as well practice them now. All right, so what you're going to do is I want to actually graph this and see what the box and whisker plot looks like. So I'm going to press second stat plot. So second makes the blue things turn on, and this stat plot, I want to plot my statistics. So second stat plot. The first plot is off, so I'm going to turn it on. So I'm going to press enter. And it's flashing to turn on, so I'm just going to press enter again. And if you need to watch this again, just watch it again. It's currently set up for a scatter plot, which we can't do. We don't have two lists. So I've got to press the down arrow key to get in this section here, and I want to choose the box and whisker plot that does not have dots. This includes outliers. We don't want to do that. We want to do the one that just goes from end to end. Okay, press enter. It's automatically going to change your list, and then I want to graph it. If you just press graph right now, it's not going to work perfectly, but if you press zoom and then 9, it's going to zoom on your statistics. It's actually going to like fit around your graph there. So there's my graph. You didn't have to do it this way, but it was nice. And if you press trace, it's actually going to, and if you press the over arrow key, it's actually going to give you all of your values there. So our min is 343, our Q1 is 370, our median is 389, our Q3 is 395, and our max is 402. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and graph those on my paper. All right, so I've gone ahead and graphed that on there, labeled it as well with each of my values. And also you can see that it matches how my graph looked on my calculator. All right, now we're just going to answer as many questions as we can before we run out of time. All right, question number 1. What is the median price for a snowboard at Middletown Snowboards? Middletown Snowboards, median is $358. Okay. What is the lowest price you could pay for a snowboard at Snowboard Central? Snowboard Central, minimum $343. I'm not going to write dollar signs just to save time. Okay. What is the most expensive board at Middletown Snowboards? Well, Middletown, the max is $405, so it must be $405. Okay, I do want dollar signs. All right, next question. What is the range of prices for Snowboard Central? Well, we know that range is max minus min. So that's going to be 402 minus 343, which is going to be a 59. So there's a $59 range in prices, lowest and highest. Okay, which price represents the 75th percentile, or that's the same thing as saying Q3 for Middletown Snowboards. So what is Q3 for Middletown Snowboards? Sorry, I'm just going up and down, but that's what we got. Middletown Snowboards, Q3 is this first line coming from the top, so it's 375. Whoop. Hopefully no one gets motion sickness here. So 375. Okay, what is the price range of the middle 50%? Well, when I talk about the middle 50%, I'm actually talking about the inner quartile range. Okay, so what is it called? The inner quartile range. And what is the price range? What is that range for the middle 50%? Well, that's going to be Q3 minus Q1. So that's going to be, and this is for Snowboard Central. So I'm going to go up, Snowboard Central. Q3 is 395. Q1 is 370. 395 minus 370 is 25. So there's a quartile range of $25. Okay, what percent of snowboards were more than 395 at Snowboard Central? Okay, 395, what percent is higher? Well, that's only one little section, so that's 25%. 75% is below, that's 3 sections. So 25%. And last question, what percent of snowboards sold at Middletown Snowboard between 350 and 375? 350 and 375, that's 2 sections. Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm out of your screen. 350, 375, that's 2 sections, so that accounts for 50, oh my word, that says 50. 50% of the data there. All right, so the key takeaway is making a box and whisker plot and being able to answer questions about what percent, if there was 100 people, how many scored between 375 and 405 or whatever, something like that. So good luck on your homework, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.